2020 to order. If you'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence, I would appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, is there anyone on the Teams meeting that would like to speak on something that is not on our current agenda? Seeing and hearing none, move on to review and approve the minutes from the 11/24/20 regular county board meeting.
Mr. Chair, we should call the roll.
I'm sorry. Therese, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
All present.
Thank you. At this time, we'll review and approve the minutes from the 11/24 regular county board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Review and approve the agenda. We have one change on our agenda. We are pulling item 6 from the agenda at this time. So I would look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Motion. Second.
Commissioner Hoag makes the motion. Commissioner Franzine makes the second. Therese, would you call that?
Commissioner
roll?
Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Item number 5, the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve. I'm sorry, did I hear a second?
Second by Coring.
Second by Commissioner Coring. Therese, roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. All right, we're on to item number 7, community services and the vaccine update. Ms. Terry, Ms. Moritz.
Good evening. I had sent Teresa a PowerPoint if she's able to pull that up. Well, while she's working on that, I can say that we're in a very nice place today with the numbers in our community decreasing over the last several weeks here, giving us a much needed break from contact tracing and following up with many businesses. So the recent days and weeks here, we've had case counts that have been in the 30 to 40 range of new cases, where prior weeks we were experiencing days where we were having 130, 40 cases, new cases each and every day for follow-up. And so this has been great progress, and thanks to our community for helping us with getting to this low number today, because it is certainly going to make it easier for what we have to come in the next weeks and months with vaccine distribution and the work that we need to do there this spring. Let's see.
Michelle, if I can ask you a question, this is Commissioner Barrows. Are we seeing that we're past the peak from the potential Thanksgiving gatherings and that we're on the downside of that? Would that be an accurate assumption?
We did not see an increase from Thanksgiving, and we really are right at that spot where we should be seeing that come up. I believe we still have a few days to safely say that we're past it, but the last couple of days here have been really, really nice numbers, as far as in the low under 20 even on some days. I think it's still yet to be seen, though.
Okay.
I am unable to see the PowerPoint for some reason, but there we go.
Michelle,
If
do
I
you
can
want to,
advance.
Michelle, do you want to bring it up on your end so you can run the PowerPoint? And I can share the
That would be
screen?
even
Or
better.
do you want me to run
Yeah.
it?
Nope, that would probably be better.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Nope, that's okay. Technology, we're getting a little bit better at it, but. Okay, so current data. If you can see my screen, we
Nope, I
have
can't.
today's.
Can you share it?
Oh, yeah.
Just wait, now I have to share mine, I'm sorry.
I need to make sure we've got the right one.
Okay, Jim, Amy, do you know how to share this? She should be able to do it on her end, right? Yeah. Oh, there we go, okay. Okay, we're all good now.
Okay, so
Thank you.
current data. We have risen up to 4,282 cases in Crow Wing County since the beginning of the pandemic. 188 of those cases have been hospitalized, and unfortunately, we have lost 47 individuals to COVID. As time has gone on, trends as far as exposure has kind of followed what we've seen early on with individuals with known contacts, that they were close contacts to a positive case and then spread to the new case. The congregate living settings continues to be an area that we have quite a few cases. And then the outbreaks associated. MDH initially was labeling a lot of these as other categories, known contact, no known contact, or basically unknown, and now moving many of those over to outbreaks associated in our community, but also locations outside of our community. And then, and one of the pieces that we are working on still expanding is testing opportunities for individuals that want to be tested. Cuyuna Regional Medical Center, they have been continuing to offer testing as well as Essentia. And then we had the expansion of the mail-in testing through MDH. Initially, it was just Crow Wing County and a handful of other counties that had this opportunity. It's now been expanded to all of Minnesota. And then today we have, this week we have the newly added popped up self-administered testing that's going to be conducted over at Central Lakes College this week on Thursday through Saturday. This is in partnership with MDH and HHS and Central Lakes College. Individuals that want to attend this should go to either the county's website or Minnesota Department of Health's website. There's going to be a link for them to go in and register to attend. Registration is not absolutely required, but it does help us plan out for the staffing needs for that day. And then the biggest news of the last month here has been around vaccine planning. Vaccine is coming very soon. I've needed to change these slides even several times today because I had vaccine should be coming next week and then this week, and then vaccine is coming today, but we do know that vaccine is here in Minnesota and they are starting to move it out across the state. And we've had many questions around this opportunity with the vaccine and questions around prioritization and how we're going to get it out. So wanting to update you on these pieces. Public Health will be following the distribution framework from Minnesota Department of Health. With that, what we're talking about is MDH will set priority order for individuals for getting vaccine, because this is a limited item right now, a scarce resource. We do need to look at prioritizing individuals for receiving the vaccine. And what MDH is using is based off of what the feds and CDC has outlined for the United States. MDH provides us with what and who will get the shipments and when they'll get the shipments. And so it is a piece where we're doing registration with the state, but still it is up to them when it's going to be shipped out to us, and even what is going to be shipped out to us, as far as there's many different vaccines, and we'll talk about those in a bit. The purpose of this is also to immunize for the greatest impact in our community, meaning maximizing the health benefits of reducing death and serious illness. So we're looking at those that are going to be the most susceptible to the virus, where it's going to cause them the most issues, and also those that take care of individuals in compromised, like immune systems or congregate living settings, our healthcare workers as well. Public Health has been preparing for this over the many, many years that I have worked here. We have an excellent storage system here. When we ended our vaccine program, we did keep our refrigerator and freezer, and this spring, unfortunately, it had some issues, but it timing-wise was fantastic to get it serviced and also have our monitoring system fixed and upgraded as well, because now that is going to be extremely important for us in the coming months to make sure that when we receive vaccine that we do keep it safe and viable. So public health, this is not something new as far as offering vaccines in the community. This is something that we've trained, planned, and practiced for many, many years. Even back to my college years, this was something that we did in the community. What we currently know, there's a lot that we don't know. It's maybe should be where I would want to start with this, and it's more so that there's many things that we're learning on a daily basis. So I continue to add to our plan as we find out more things about these vaccines. The first vaccine is the Pfizer vaccine. That was approved just last week for individuals 16 years of age and older. This is the one that you're seeing on the news today because the biggest issues around it is the ultra cold freezer that is needed for storing the vaccine. And that is not something that is widely available across Minnesota, but we do happen to have one here in Crow Wing. And so that is going to be a location for distributing out to other locations that do not have the super cold freezer. This vaccine, once thawed, needs to be used within 5 days, and that's where getting it to the places quickly and then the locations using it within those 5 days is super important for planning. We don't want vaccines sitting and not being used that is thawed out. So that piece about St. Joe's and St. Cloud being our distribution hubs to other locations like hospitals in our area. Vaccine is expected to arrive this week. At this point, I have not heard that it has actually arrived out to our hospitals in the central region. The second vaccine that we are hearing about is that Moderna vaccine, that is expected to be approved this week. It is also a frozen vaccine, but it has a lot less storage and handling concerns. The vaccine freezer that we have here at Public Health is going to be appropriate, and we have a lot of room to be able to store it and possibly even store it for our partner agencies as well. The timeline for the shipments for this is unknown. Early on, they were indicating around New Year's. So approval this week with hopes of it being shipped out within the next couple of weeks. With this, the distribution is going to be out to registered providers, and they're going to be using the routes that we normally use for shipping out vaccine. And so there won't be the fanfare necessarily that we saw today and yesterday with moving vaccine. What we know about these two vaccines right now, they're indicating 95% coverage with getting the 2 doses. Both of these have met strict and existing safety standards. It does take 2 doses, and these products have set timelines where you should come back and get vaccinated with that second dose. This is some area that we are needing to hear more from the manufacturers on. Does it have to be exactly the 28 or 21 days? Or do we have a little bit of room after those dates to be able to get people back to vaccinate them for the second dose? Vaccine will not be required or mandated. And we're talking mostly about these 2 manufacturers, but there are dozens of other companies that are making COVID-19 vaccine for the United States and the world that we'll be probably seeing over the next year here available, that I'm sure we'll have more to learn about each of them. When will vaccine be available? This is going to be a phased rollout based on the limited availability of those early doses. And that's again where we talked about the needing to prioritize who gets the vaccine and when. Initial vaccinations will take place in closed settings, such as like an employment setting, like the hospital, or the long-term care setting, where the residents would not be otherwise be able to be vaccinated or easily vaccinated unless the doses were brought to them. Later phases, we'll be talking more about having it available in multiple locations, such as pharmacies and your primary care provider, and also clinics that will be provided by Public Health. So you'll hear in the news and even in some of the documents that I have sent out that there's the different priority groups, 1A, 1B, 1C, and 2. At this point, the only group that I feel like we have a finalized document is around the 1A priorities, and I did have that sent to you by Teresa. And that looks at mostly the healthcare personnel and long-term care residents. It does include some additional workers in EMS and also vaccinators. So this chart here is even needing to be expanded from changes that occurred last week. But as you can see, as we move out, 1A is that healthcare personnel and long-term care residency. And then we get into 1B, essential workers, and there's quite a variety of different industries that we would be working with to get their personnel vaccinated in the essential workers category. And then we move out into the 1C, we're looking at individuals with higher risks and adults over 65. A little bit more definition on the 1A first priority. And this is an area where in the next days and weeks, our hospital and nursing homes will be working to vaccinate the healthcare workers, the EMS, and skilled nursing facilities. But one of the problems will be, although we did receive a nice allotment of vaccine, it still is not going to be enough to cover this entire category for their first and second doses. It's going to take us some time because we will need to reserve vaccine for their second dose, yet there just simply will not be enough to cover, and that's where we'll need the next manufacturer to step up with vaccine to be able to help us get the rest of the individuals in this category. Vaccine will ship directly to providers that have registered to vaccinate this group, and so that's part of where MDH is allocating vaccine out to the providers. Not every provider, vaccine provider is going to be having contact with people in this category. Therefore, MDH is not sending them vaccine. Currently, we have 7 registered providers in Crow Wing, the vast majority being the different clinics within Crow Wing County, and then a pharmacy and Crow Wing County Public Health. Redistribution of vaccine is allowed to other agencies as long as the other agency is also registered. And so one of the pieces that we needed to do is also fill out paperwork to be able to receive vaccine and also be able to give vaccine to other providers. And so far today, all of our paperwork has been completed to be able to receive vaccine when it is ready to come to us. Our current focus this week is planning for EMS providers that are not affiliated with a healthcare system. So those that are not part of the hospital system, we would be working with them, plus first responders in the community, and then also planning for vaccinating community vaccinators, which would mostly be Crow Wing County Public Health staff at this point for community vaccinators, potentially pharmacies that have also registered as well to work with us. Near future, what we'll be working on is planning for coordinating like larger segments of populations, such as individuals in group homes, school staff, treatment centers, those essential workers as well that are part of a business. Any place that we can go and do many people safely, socially distancing, we would like to work with them for planning. And then as vaccine becomes more widely available, we'll be working to do more of those community vaccine events. All the while, what complicates this is the need to social distance and do it as safe as possible. During a pandemic and a virus that is easily spread, it does add some challenges for our clinics that we'll be planning. What questions do you have?
Michelle, what bucket does the jail staff fall into?
I'm going to reference right to the document because that is one that we talked about, I want to say this week. I believe it is 1A.
It's actually 1A, third priority.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Say that again, it's 1A, what was it?
The third priority group?
Because in that case, we're looking at a congregate living setting where there's many people that are living similar to like assisted living that could easily be spread from one person to another within the facility.
That is the concern, and I, anytime we can move that up in priority, I think that would be a plus, or as soon as we can get those vaccinations to them, we should do that. Other questions?
Do we, Michelle, I've heard cases where there's not enough doses or vaccine for like even the essential healthcare people. Do you know how we stand in Crow Wing County as far as the amount of vaccine versus the number of healthcare and senior folks that, do we have enough to cover all of those?
We do not. Right now, we have just, well, right now we have none. So, no, we have not enough to cover our healthcare workers and all the individuals that are living in a long-term care facility. So at this point, we do not have enough vaccine to cover even the 1A1 priority group.
And when do we expect the second shipment of vaccine?
That is the big question. Timeline as far as receiving additional shipments. It is waiting to hear if it's been approved yet, and then when they're able to ship it out from the manufacturers. Those are some of the big questions that we're working around, is so many different unknowns of the timeline, approval, to be able to schedule and move forward with vaccinating these individuals.
Commissioner Coring, any questions?
I guess just a quick one, nothing really important. Michelle, when you said on your slide presentation, you said not mandatory. Now, when you say that, are you saying the public in general it's not mandatory, or are you saying Crow Wing County employees?
I'm saying that as far as it being required by the state of Minnesota or a governor's order, it's not going to be mandatory there.
But I would assume that if the hospital requires you to have a flu shot, otherwise you can't work there, I would assume that they're probably going to mandate that everybody have to have a shot.
I think that is yet to be seen if the facilities will require their employees to take the vaccine.
Okay.
Commissioner Brecken, any questions?
No, not at this time.
Commissioner Franzine?
Thanks.
At this point, I want to thank you, Michelle, for all the hard work you're putting in, your staff. And I know that it's a changing environment every minute. We talk about days, but in this case, I think it's every minute. These things change. I listen to Commissioner Malcolm all the time, and it's never the same from moment to moment. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would also like to point out kind of two things that I've been talking about is hope and patience. This is the first glimmer of hope we've seen in COVID since March, which aren't we overdue?
Yes.
Holy cow. Everybody is so sick and tired of COVID. I am too. This is the first glimmer of hope, right? That we may be able to see our way to the other side. That's a really cool thing. We also need to be patient. Patient to wait for vaccine shipments that is a function of how fast they can get supplies and manufacturing and distribution. Patience in that COVID isn't going to go away in our community tomorrow. And so all of the practices that we know do work, and the science is settled on this, face masks, social distancing, washing your hands, those are still going to be important in our community for the coming months. It will be months before we have enough vaccine in the community where I think you could start to see relaxation of those things. So yes, this is a hopeful sign. I am hopeful about it. And we have to be patient too. Let's do both.
Very good. Number 8 is land services. 8.1 will be land asset management policy update. Ryan?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of the board. Several years ago, we developed a land asset management policy to largely outline how we manage our non-conservation tax forfeited lands that do not fit within our larger management strategy that we'd like to keep those lands for forestry and recreation purposes. And it also includes a process for land exchanges, easements, leases, and several other things. We've made several updates to this policy since then, and we have those updates here for the board's consideration. Some of the substantial updates are we added clarification to the land sale section with processes for selling to cities, townships, and the HRA. And we added a section that when we're going to sell to cities and townships, that we sell the land for estimated market value. When we're going to sell to the HRA to create affordable housing or correct blight, we will sell those properties for $1 per tract. We added land sale terms and fees into the policy. There was no changes there. We just added the fee schedule and terms to the policy. And we also added a clarification on leasing tax forfeited lands, and we removed some language about doing a land exchange from tax forfeited into county fee status before selling lands. It's a cumbersome process, and we removed that to clean that up. So I'd be glad to take any questions.
Any questions? Commissioner Hoag?
I got a quick one. What would be the difference between the HRA at $1 and a city or a township at $1? Why are we separating the two out when they both could potentially have the same effect to the community?
That's a really good question, Commissioner Hoag. We probably worded that a little wrong. The practice has been that we've always seen the HRA only purchase lands to correct blight or create affordable housing. We've never really seen cities do that. But if a city wanted to purchase a property, to tear down a house or correct blight or for whatever reason, I think that would qualify.
It doesn't allow it at the same fair.
Not as it's written in our policy, but I think that could be reworded to, if the purpose is for correcting blight or for affordable housing, we could sell it for $1 per tract, no matter whether it's a city or the HRA. Yep.
Administrator Hool.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hoag, the other thing I would point out is that typically the lands we hold are for forestry purposes, land conservation purposes, resource conservation purposes. The lots that the HRA tends to get are individual lots, which have no value to us for those purposes. The lands that are acquired by cities and towns typically tend to be larger tracts of property. That's not universally true. What I do think we probably should do is get you a better understanding of when have we transferred parcels to municipalities, when haven't we, what were the purposes, what does the law provide? So I think there's some room yet to work on this moving forward, but I think it is at least acceptable for today, and I hope to have this back in front of you with that kind of broader information about this question.
Commissioner Coring, questions?
No, sir, none from me, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Brecken?
No questions at this time.
I would look for a motion then.
I'll make a motion to accept the land asset management policy update.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to approve the updated land asset management policy.
I'll second. This is Bill.
Commissioner Brecken seconds the motion. Therese, would you call the roll call, please?
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
All right.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
8.2, the land use map amendment for the Birkeland Trust. Who's presenting that? Gary?
Jake.
Jake?
Mr. Chair, that'll be Jake Free. I'll be doing that.
It's all yours,
So,
Jake.
all right, Mr. Chair, members of the board, good evening. We have a request for the county board to approve, table, or deny the request from Birkeland Trust for the address at 25151 Birkeland Lane, Deerwood, Minnesota 56444, to amend the official land use map for parcel 50220501 from waterfront commercial with rural residential 5 to shoreline district with rural residential 5 involving approximately 45.71 acres. The property contained a resort until about the early 1980s, and it's now used for residential use. Properties to the north are primarily zoned shoreline districts with some tax forfeited county managed land in it. To the east is Shoreland District with Bay Lake. Properties to the south are Zone Commercial 2 with some Shoreland District. Properties to the west are Zone Commercial 2 with Rural Residential 5 and some Shoreland District as well. The application for the zoning change was unanimously recommended for approval by the Planning Commission at their November 19th meeting. We received a couple of comments. The Highway Department, the County Highway Department has commented that the zoning change will have no effect on the county's transportation system. Bay Lake Township has recommended approval. We didn't receive any other comments from any other agencies or any other members of the public at large. With that, Mr. Chair, we'd be looking for a motion at this point, or I can take any questions.
Any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Brecken,
No questions.
Commissioner Coring?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Then I would look for a motion to amend the land use map from waterfront commercial district with rural residential 5 to shoreland district with rural residential 5 involving approximately 6.71 total acres.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Hoag, seconded by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
All right.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barros?
Chair votes aye, motion passes. Thank you, Jake.
All right, thank you.
In our presence is our county sheriff, Sheriff Goddard. If you would give us some words of inspiration.
I will certainly try. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good evening. I don't get to say good evening that often, so good evening. So think back with me. I know 2020 has lasted about 10 years, at least it seems like that. But go back to 2019, and my proposal brought to you included two additional positions for our Lakes Area Drug Investigative Division. And I wanted to give you an update. Unfortunately, I won't be at the next meeting, so I wanted to make sure we cover this by the end of the year. But we've had those positions filled for about 5 months now. And I just want to share you with this. I mean, this is good news for our office, but it's also, I think, gives us a pretty good example of the challenges that we are facing in our community. So here's our seizures so far with our drug team. And this work is not just our office. You know, this is work with agencies throughout our area, the State Patrol, DNR, I mean, everyone that we work with on a daily basis that these cases come forward with the tips and with the traffic stops, et cetera. But for 2020, since August, we have seized 2,007.4 grams of marijuana, 24.6 grams of marijuana wax. This is what's disturbing to me is 2,834.63 grams of methamphetamines. Now, I'm an inches as pound guy, so let me give you the comparison there. Marijuana, we've roughly recovered 4.5 pounds of marijuana. Methamphetamine, we've recovered 6.25 pounds of methamphetamine. And the cases that we ran into, it's been large amount, pounds plural, that we've run into. So first off, I would like to thank you for the additions to our office because they are making a difference. These are cases that have taken place in our outer parts of our community within Crow Wing County. Kind of the focus that we wanted to push was, we know there's some bigger lots out there or some bigger fish out there, and we haven't seen a payoff on that. To continue down the list here, money we've seized just short of $26,000, and I am a very big staunch supporter of Second Amendment, as mostly of you know, but when we talk about guns, I talk about the guns in the wrong hands, and we have seized 11 guns so far, some of which are what we'd classify as illegal firearms during these seizures and during these search warrants. So kudos to our people, and again, thank you for your support and making our office better and making our community safer. And with that, any questions? But I would like to also, before I forget, wish you all a Merry Christmas. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Coring, Commissioner Brecken, any questions for the sheriff?
Mr. Chairman? No questions.
all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. County Administrator Hool. I don't see Don Ryan on the county attorney on the.
He was on there.
I don't see him.
Oh, well, Yes, he's gone. He was on here earlier.
Maybe he'll return, and if he does, Mr. Chair, that's okay.
It's fine.
I would like your indulgence, if you don't mind. I would like to move the reconsidering the funding of the CARES grant for North Star Power Sports to the end of my report, if you don't mind. Senior management team met this past Monday. The amount of time we spend on COVID, the amount of time we spend on vaccinations, the amount of time that we spend on COVID recovery is substantial, and it dominates. And right now, vaccinations are really dominating our agenda. And because it's a significant logistical issue, plus trying to figure out priorities and everything that we need to do to take care of it. So that occupies most of our agenda. We also did have conversations, though, and finalized new KPIs for supervisors and managers in the county, which will be uploaded into our TrackStar system for 2021. So that's good. We're in the stages of performance planning for next year, and then after the first of the year, we start to get into evaluating the previous year. So been busy with those things. Happy to answer questions about that if you have any.
Questions? Commissioner Coring?
Mr. Chairman, no questions for the county administrator.
Thank you. Commissioner Brecken? Mr. Brecken looks like he dropped off.
Yeah, he's gone. No, he's gone too?
What are you doing, Teresa?
Hopefully he'll come back.
I didn't like make him go away or anything.
So I don't hear any questions, so we can move on to 11.3.
Mr. Chair, enclosed in your packet is a request for board action to grant a waiver to the Lakes Area Restorative Justice Program. They want to apply for some Department of Public Safety, Minnesota Office of Justice programs. It's the Minnesota Burn Justice Assistance Grants. They have applied for this grant in the past. It is first dibs go to local units of government. And so they need a waiver from us that we're not interested in applying before they can apply. I have reached out to the sheriff, to the county attorney, to community services. There are no plans for us to apply for those grant funds at this point, and historically they have been used by our nonprofits in the community. So I would suggest that based on past history, we could approve the waiver. It is enclosed in your packet for your consideration.
Any questions?
No.
Commissioner Coring, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, no questions.
Then I would look for a motion to approve this waiver.
I would make that motion.
Commissioner
I
Franzine
would
makes,
second that.
Commissioner Franzine
Coring.
makes the motion to accept the waiver application. Commissioner Coring, you're willing to second?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Coring seconds the motion. Therese, would you call the roll call, please?
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken? Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. That motion is passed. Congratulations. I see Mr. Andrews on the line, so
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. We really appreciate it.
Brian's the director of the Lakes Area Restorative Justice Project, so very good. Thank you. And with that, Mr. Administrator, we'll move on to 11.4.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I also have enclosed in your packet a request for board action to make an appointment to the Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District Board of Directors, and that would be to appoint Diane Cash to replace Robin Wolf on the Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District. She would be representing the city of Crosby on the Sanitary Sewer District Board for a term expiring on 12/31 of '22. Typically, these come to us from the cities that wish to designate a representative on those boards, and we have, I think, a long history of honoring those requests. And so because this is a statutory creation, a motion would be in order.
I would make that motion.
Commissioner Hoag makes a motion to appoint Diane Cash to the Serpent Lake Sanitary Sewer District Board of Directors. Commissioner Franzine seconds that motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye, motion passes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you also have enclosed in your packet a request for board action to consider some citizen appointments. We have 3 of them, I think, that are available for your consideration today. That would be Kathy Edelman for the Extension Committee. Her term expires at the end of this year. She's eligible for reappointment and is interested in being reappointed, correct? Same with Donna McAnally, and the same with Jenny Castle on the Personnel Board of Appeals. The first 2 are to extension. The third one is to our Personnel Board of Appeals. Those can be made by the chair if you wish.
And the chair will make those appointments. Congratulations to them. We appreciate their serving on those committees.
And then, Mr. Chair, members, if I can, I'd like to update you on something that's happening very, very contemporaneously. We got notice, and I sent it to you earlier today, from Representative Lewick, and we had heard through our professional associations that the state was considering an additional economic assistance program for area businesses, for businesses across the state that have been impacted negatively by COVID. And so I wanted to give you a brief overview of that. They created 3 buckets that they called. The one was they were interested in money that's going to go out the door as fast as it can. And so they are targeting restaurants, breweries, bowling alleys, bars, gyms, and different iterations within these industry codes that are maintained at the state and the federal level. That's $100 million. The Department of Revenue has identified about 4,200 businesses that would qualify. They will look at Q2 and 3 year over year, 2020 to 2019, and if your sales are off by 30%, then you'll qualify. They use sales tax, I believe, as the mechanism to determine whether your sales are down. There are different levels of grants for these groups. If you have 0 to 20, well, actually, if you are a business that's not even in the unemployment program, so that would be businesses that are sole proprietors, they would be eligible up to $10,000. 0 to 20 employees, $15,000, 21 to 100, $25,000, and on up to $45,000 maximum grant in that bucket. The Department of Revenue will send those checks out, presuming the governor approves it, which he has indicated he will. This just passed last night. And so the governor hasn't approved it yet, but I'm expecting, and all indications are that he will. The second bucket, which they also want to be fast, is for large convention centers, $5 million for convention centers of 1,500 or more. So there's only about 5 or 6 in the state that's going to hit that criteria. They say about 10 qualify. And movie theaters, and they're going to divide $9 million based on the number of screens each movie theater has. If you have more screens, you're going to get a larger grant. Those 2 will be issued by the Department of Revenue. So those first 2 buckets are designed to be quick out the door, and there will be no county role in either of those 2. The third bucket, however, is one that they have specified a county role in. And I think it's something that we've requested. It's probably also a reflection. I'm hearing from Micah and from AMC staff that there was very good feelings down at the legislature about how well counties managed the CARES Act grants and the economic stimulus that went out into the communities as part of that. And so I think we're probably being considered as a partner because we did good work on our CARES Act, and have demonstrated a capacity, a flexibility, and a nimbleness to do this rather quickly. So the third bucket, $102.5 million, that's $2.5 million are set aside for administrative fees. That will be split equally between the 87 counties. So for us, we are eligible for $17.30 per capita. So based on Crow Wing County's population, the most recent data that I have, I have more recent data here, I think. The most recent data that I have shows Crow Wing County receiving a grant, let's say approximately $1.2 million. We're also allowed about $31,000 for admin costs, which is what we could pay a third party to administer the grant. We have used that in the past. We used both United Way and Bladek in the first round of economic assistance grants. And so this is, I believe, coming our way. There's a great deal of flexibility, and we can determine what the eligibility criteria are within some very broad parameters based on what we perceive to be the greatest need in the community. And that is really the trick to this, isn't it? Trying to figure out where's the greatest need in the community? How can we target resources to get them in the hands of the people who have the greatest needs. I'm sure that we missed that. I'm sure we don't hit that mark perfectly, but we try. So that is recent legislation. You got a letter that I sent you from Representative Lewick this morning that talked about that change and gave you a copy of the legislation, so you have that. And then I don't know if you want to talk about what we would do with Crow Wing County's portion of that or not, but in order to allow you to, I wanted to make sure that we were prepared. And so worked pretty hard today to try to pull together. We knew this was coming, but didn't know it was going to happen that fast. So we worked pretty hard today to try to put at least some ideas in front of you. So I think I've handed out, I've sent by email to Commissioner Brecken and Commissioner Coring and verified that they got the email. I've passed it out to you, so I'd like to walk through that if it meets with the board's approval.
I'm not hearing any objections, so.
I'm suggesting that we should have two priorities here. The first priority would be, we have identified in the past, in phase one of our CARES Act grants, we funded small businesses, 50 or fewer employees, who were ordered to be shut down by the governor. There were applications that we received from businesses that are hurting, but were not ordered shut down by the governor. And we rejected those applications because we didn't have enough funds and they didn't hit the eligibility criteria. I would suggest that is the group that you should have as your top priority now. Those businesses that were not ordered to be closed, but that we know experience significant setbacks in the community. They still have to show that COVID-related impact. We can't replace lost revenues, but we can assist with the bills that you would have paid with that revenue. That's the challenge, paying the bill. We can help with that. We don't cover the revenue side. The revenue is the precipitating event. The expense is where the strain was. And so we're suggesting that should still be 50 or fewer employees. They got to have a physical location in Crow Wing County, registered with the Secretary of State, operating since March 1st. All of those are the same criteria that we applied to phase one. The only difference in this set of criteria is they weren't ordered to shut down.
Correct.
The second priority would be to allow those who were in phase one, not phase two, phase one. Remember, in phase one, it was 50 or fewer employees. Phase two was, we expanded it up to 100. This would be to duplicate phase one. So it would allow small businesses who may have already been funded or who may not have already been funded to make either another or an application for the first time. It is still focused on small businesses. If there are any funds left over after those two rounds, then we could consider, and I think event centers probably makes more sense, but I don't know that I think we need to get there unless, in fact, we have any unspent funds. So what I'm suggesting is that if you do want to adopt a program like this, the application reviews for priority ones and twos could be done in a single subcommittee, I think, this time. It's up to you who you want to appoint. I suggested Commissioner Barrows and Commissioner Franzen. I think you both have an attention to detail. And one of you worked on the for-profit and one of you worked on the nonprofit. Is that right?
Yes.
I think.
The only thing I see as a problem is you said January 18th, and that's Martin Luther King Day.
Oh, it is Martin Luther King Day. Is that the deadline for the applications?
No, you just had put in there that would be a good day for the subcommittee to meet.
We'll have to move that. And so I'm going to have to move these timelines around because the 19th was the board meeting where I think you could have held a special meeting. So I think you probably could move that back to the previous Friday because the deadline for the grant is still on the 12th. That's 3 weeks from today. That's arbitrary, but it's 3 weeks from today. We wanted to make sure it got past the holiday season. It's tough to pierce the noise sometimes during that time of year. So we wanted to make sure we were into close to mid-January. So we could still have that deadline be the 12th, meet on the previous Friday, and then have a special board meeting on the committee of the whole.
Are we still having a budget meeting on the second Thursday, which would be the 14th?
Yeah, and we could do it then, too.
Could we have it then? Because I have something on Friday.
Sure. I'm comfortable with that.
I think we can pull that off.
Commissioner Hoag,
It's just
Any
you and me,
objection?
Steve.
use the budget meeting in January? or,
Well, keep in mind, when is the county board going to take up the abstract of all of them? I'm talking about the committee meeting, the two of you that will get together to
just do
review the applications. Now, it can be the same day as the budget committee because you know you're going to be around,
right?
and we'll just schedule it after that. I took it, that's what you meant by that?
What I meant.
Oh,
We would-
okay,
we
then
would
that-
still
I'm fine
have-
with that.
Okay.
A special board meeting on the 19th attached to your regular committee of the whole meeting. At that point, the recommendation from the subcommittee would be brought to the full board. And then you can deal with that abstract at that time. If those schedules work out, we have until March 15th to close this out.
I'm going to put them on my calendar right now, so.
Okay. And if there are any other leftover funds, we'll still have time to do something, but it will need to be pretty quick and probably through some solicited applications instead of a application process. So we would have to identify those event centers, I think, that have more than 50 employees. We're not proposing that you would advertise further. We would, again, use our networks, if you will, social media, put out a press release, using the Chambers of Commerce mailing lists, using Bladex mailing lists, trying to get the word out as much as we can, and I would encourage you guys to spread that word as well. It's a framework. I'm not married to it, and it's a framework. It ought to be targeted to those who you perceive to be greatest in most need in our community. If we have missed that mark, you should change it.
Okay,
If you adopt it today, then we will move forward with implementing. If you are not ready to adopt it today, because it is very quick, it just happened last night, I just thought your meeting today, it just happened, I at least wanted you to have something to consider,
so we should have a motion to adopt this.
if you wish.
Mr. Chair, this is Bill.
Commissioner
Could, I
Brecken,
see Ted Ben's on the call too. Would he have any input at this time?
I didn't quite understand you.
Oh, Tyler Glenn,
Oh, Tyler Glenn?
does he have any input?
Yes, Tyler is on the call.
Yep. I'm on, Commissioner Brecken, thank you. We did meet this afternoon. If you would like to proceed with this, we feel very comfortable with the process and knowing that, we learned a few things on how to expedite this process, certainly with rounds 1 and 2 of the applications. We're very comfortable moving forward with this. We know we spoke this afternoon about some of the changes that we would make to the applications. And as we talk about marketing, the nice thing for us is that we've created a constant contact list of all of the people that applied through the first two rounds of the application. So we'll be able to market that very quickly and get this out in front of the folks that really need it. So if you would like to proceed and for us to provide that assistance, I gave some timelines to Administrator Houle today and the staff, and we can get this out very, very quickly.
So, Mr. Houle, did we also contact Ms. Rollins from United Way for assistance too?
I did reach out to Kim. I'm not expecting to get as many nonprofit applications this time. I might be wrong about that. We will certainly use United Way to get the word out, but I'm not expecting so many applications that I think we need to have 2 vendors. And so I am proposing the SharePoint site that was set up, all of the materials that were set up, they got funneled through Bladec anyway. And so I am suggesting just using 1 vendor this time.
Okay.
And hence, 1 subcommittee instead of 2.
Okay,
But that's up to you guys.
and you're okay with that, Commissioner?
I am fine with that.
Okay.
And I would make the motion to go forward.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to move forward with the plan presented to us regarding the Economic Assistance Grant Program. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Hoag seconds the motion. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you for the work this afternoon on that. I appreciate that.
I think you're probably the first county in the state to do it, because I don't think the governor signed it yet. And so I'm on a call tomorrow.
If he signs this, we'll go forward.
So
It
this
is
is, mon-
contingent on that, and so we'll make sure that that's reflected.
this is really monopoly money we're playing with right now.
Right now it is,
Okay.
but I do expect it's going to come through. I think it's important, the work that we can do to help those folks, and so I really would encourage anybody that you know that's out there that's hurting, that fits these criteria, please do encourage them to apply. We know there's a lot of pain in the community. We can't do enough, but we can do some things. It's what we can do.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I think we still have the reconsider of the funding of the CARES Act grant for North Star Power Sports. There is a request for board action in your packet, and it was really just to give you the history of how we got to this point. I'm not sure if this is as important based on the actions you just took, but I will let the business owner to represent their own points of view. So we do have the business owner available. You have all the background that's in the board packet. And so I would suggest, Mr. Chair, that you could ask the business owner if they have something they would like to present.
Is Mr. Getty on the line?
Hi, Mr. Chair. This is Amy. I'm on the line. And we would actually like to remove our request, and we're going to go forward with the application that you guys just approved.
This is, I had a hard time understanding.
I believe what Ms. Getty was saying was that she would like to
Withdraw?
Thank you. Withdraw the request today because she will qualify, they will qualify under what you just approved. And so if I heard Amy correctly, it was they will apply through that program. Is that correct, Amy?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Very good. Thank you, Amy.
That again is assuming that this does get signed.
If it doesn't, we'll put her back on the agenda.
Okay.
So that item has been pulled, and at this point, we had talked about closing out the CARES Act, so we probably don't want to do that at this meeting.
Two different funding sources. And so we can, and essentially we have closed out the CARES Act. You authorized what we could do, phase 1, phase 2, and then we did schools, YMCA, daycare, you remember that. And then we closed it out with whatever other reimbursements Crow Wing County could get. To put that into some context, 5.8 million of our $8 million went out the door. That's about 70%. Many counties in the state kept all of the resources, and we could have too. We could document about probably 9 million in costs we've incurred as a result of the eligibility criteria. It wasn't the right thing for you guys to do, and you didn't do that. You sent most of our money out into the community. So are we hurting? Sure we are. We're not the only ones. And so I think you've done a good job of targeting those resources as best we can.
My reservation is only this, that if the governor doesn't sign that, and this company wants to reconsider, and we close out that, I mean, it's in our hands as the county, but if we close it out, would we, and I don't know what the vote would be, but assuming that, just make an assumption for a second that it got approved, we would write a check then from the county.
That is correct. And if you think about it, we reimbursed ourselves out of CARES Act. And so what would it, if they had come through the regular course of events, if there had been no issue with that application, it would have been on the abstract. We would have drawn down less. That's the net effect. We would have drawn down less. And so you still could fund that with your own dollars. It just means we're gonna draw down less for our own purposes. You don't have to, but you could. Because that was such an unusual set of circumstances, I think it probably makes the most sense to try to deal with it in the new one. And let's cross that bridge when we come there, because I do think the governor's going to sign it.
Okay, so to be clear, we don't need a motion really to close out the CARES Act?
I don't think so.
I mean, it will go away by itself at some point.
It's basically been all accounted for, and I believe, when's the final grant report going in? Shortly? Pardon? Cool. So we have submitted it already.
Okay. So we can move on to the last item that we have, which is a public hearing regarding the 2021 budget levy and CIP. So I would look for a motion to open the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes.
What I would suggest is, first, let's let Nick make the presentation on the
Okay.
budget and the levy, because it conveys information for folks who may have tuned in that have a comment. Maybe it answers their questions. But if we do that, then we'll open the public hearing, if that's okay?
Yep. I'm not looking for a motion, to be clear.
Not yet. But we will. Mr. Chair, I can start off the presentation while Teresa's pulling it up. Every year, this time of year, we have to set our final budget and levy, and we've been going through the budget process now since early June. And it's a rigorous process, and it was particularly challenging this year with all of the COVID challenges in our budget. We have in front of you the budget and levy for your consideration. I don't know if there are any folks who are on the call tonight that are here because they may have a valuation question. It is not uncommon that this meeting will attract people who have valuation questions, but that's not what tonight's about. Tonight is about the budget and the levy, and we don't deal with assessment questions here. That said, because we know that people come to us a lot of times with assessment questions, we also make sure that we have assessment staff available. And so if there is anybody on the call that wishes to speak with an appraiser, the number is, it was up there.
Oh.
824-1010.
Yep, 824-1010. And so if anybody's on the call and they want to call that number, there will be an appraiser from our assessment division who can answer questions or at least begin that dialogue about your market values. And so if you have a market value question, that's what we would ask you to do. We will not, none of us are going to be able to deal with estimated market value questions, but we can deal with tonight is budget and levy. Pardon?
Classification.
Classification questions.
Yes. Yes, value and classification questions. You could call that number. And we have someone standing by. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Nick to give the rest of the presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, or good evening. I'm so used to morning. Today, as Tim said, the information that we're presenting is relating to the county portion of the property tax. On the sample tax statement shown on the presentation here, the one highlighted in red is the one that we're focusing on. If there are any questions from the public related to the entities that are shown on there that are not the county portion, such as the school districts or the cities or a township, that entity's meeting dates and times are located on the statement, and they are able to work with them to discuss that portion. Every year, we've kind of presented our last 10 years of levy and what that increase or decrease percentage has been. Over the past 10 years, 7 of those years have been a negative levy through 2018. Since then, we have seen a 6.99, a 6.95, and now this year we are proposing a 4.97% levy increase. As a reminder, the county is broken into 6 different service centers. At the top of the county organization is governance services. This includes the attorney, administration or administrator, the commissioners, and veteran services. Public safety is the sheriff's office and jail. Lands includes environmental, landfill, assessing, and customer service. The highway is our maintenance and construction, as well as our fleet maintenance. Community services covers income maintenance, social services, probation, and health. And then admin is our central support system, which includes IT, facilities, finance, HR, and elections. For 2021, we are proposing a final levy of $41,262,480. This is that 4.97% increase over 2020's levy rate.
I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. Wait for the echo. There we go. Some of the drivers or pressures that the county faced in creating the 2021 budget.
Shut it off.
Sorry.
All right. Some of those drivers that were the foundation to that increase are the Department of Corrections revenue loss. The Department of Corrections reduced the amount of inmates that we are housing. This is causing us to see reduced revenues from them. That's causing us to have a need for levy to offset the costs that we still have within the jail that we aren't able to cover with their revenue. We also, every 10 years, have a 27th payroll that hits us. This is that year that the 27th payroll hits us. It doesn't mean that county staff gets paid more, it's just the timing of the Friday payday hitting us all in 27 in 1 year instead of 26 as normal. And then investment income, as many have seen, the markets have changed drastically. Our investment income is going to be down substantially. We've seen substantial reductions this year and anticipate to see that continue into 2021. As kind of a point of just interest, the budget program or process actually started out with a preliminary levy of $44,592,000. Staff worked diligently to try and reduce that, and were able to get it down to the $41,262. It's just a nice note to see that they were able to find $3.3 million in savings and keep us at a manageable rate. Where does property tax go? Of the $41,262,480, 33% of that is allocated to community services and 28% to public safety. Those are our two main areas getting property tax allocation. Community services does have outside revenue sources. They have federal and state programs that help pay for the mandated programs that we implement through that program. Unlike community services, public safety does not have a substantial number of outside revenue sources. Majority of their operations are funded through the property tax levy. That also applies to administrative services, governance services, and our debt services programs. Highway is one of our smaller portions, along with capital projects. These both do have outside revenue sources, especially highway. They have state aid money that comes in to help us with the road maintenance. They also have the local option sales tax, and in the next slide, we'll see a little bit of where outside revenues are at. For our total revenues, including our property taxes, the total revenue that we anticipate for 2021 is $92,788,205. 45% of what we have for revenue comes from the local property taxes. Another portion of that is intergovernmental. This is the state and federal dollars that we receive for the different program areas that we have. And then you can see there's a breakdown across multiple other areas as well. Where do the dollars get spent? Our total expenditures for 2021 are budgeted at $91,327,751 on the levy-based portions. Of that, 34% is in community services, 19% in public safety, and then we jump down to highway services at 21, and you can see the progression down from there. For the 2021 budget and levy, this is a breakdown of the expenditures and transfers out, the non-levy revenues, and the property taxes based on the departmental areas that are levy-based. With governance services requesting a $4,307,422 for property tax, administrative services at $5,124, community services at $13.75, public safety at $11.373. Capital projects at $1.7 million, debt service $94,746, and it's a small number because we only have the airport bonds remaining at this point. We are debt free as of we actually made our final payment this spring, so we are down to just the airport bonds and some small other little portions that are in highways budget for the Cross Lake facility. Highway services maintain their $1.892 million property tax levy. They are seeing significant performance of local option sales tax that helps us maintain a lower levy rate there. And then land services at just over $3 million for a total of $41,262,480. Every year we kind of show where we fall in relation to the surrounding counties and a tax rate per capita. As you can see, we are the second lowest on a tax levy per capita measurement, with Morrison County being the only one lower than us at this point. Traditionally, government likes to show the estimated market value in new construction as a way to offset the levy increases that they have. We tend to look beyond the total estimated market value as offsetting that, and we like to focus on the total new construction, as this is new facilities and properties and other things coming into our system that eat away a little bit at that levy increase, spreading it out more evenly over a larger portion of the county. This year, we're estimating 140 million in new construction with it's a 1.17% new construction rate, and we'll see that impact on our next slide. We also like to show the impact that this will have to some of our more common properties throughout the county. This slide shows if there was no change in value. So if a Cross Lake seasonal recreation property valued at $376,500 sees no increase in their property value for 2021 from 2020, they will actually see a decrease in their county portion of tax of $5. Similarly, a Baxter commercial industrial property valued at just over $1 million would see a decrease of $28. And a Brainerd residential homestead valued at $101,200 with no change in value would see a decrease of $1. This shows the impact that that new construction has because it's spreading the tax base out wider. With an average change in market value of 3.73%, we do see that change a little bit. The average market value of a commercial or Cross Lake seasonal recreational property at $395.44 now sees an increase of $41 in their county tax portion. That Baxter commercial property actually increases to $1.102 million from just over $1 million. They see an increase of $233. And then the Brainerd residential homestead going from 101 to 104 sees an increase of $11. We also like to include that there is a state property tax refund available to residents. A homestead credit refund is available through the state. This is available to all homeowners that are on homesteaded property. With an annual income less than $115,020 for 2020. The refund is based on a sliding scale and on total property taxes and income. If someone wants to apply for this, we always recommend communicating with your tax advisor, but you can also fill out the form. It's an M1PR form found on revenue.state.mn.us. Along with the homestead credit refund, there is also a special property tax refund. This is available to all homestead property with a net tax increase of at least 12%. And at the bottom of the tax statement will actually be their net increase. If it is above 12%, they would qualify for this. The increase must be at least $100 with a maximum refund of $1,000. There are no income limits on the special property tax refund. It is the exact same form as the homestead credit, the M1PR, found at revenue.state.mn.us. With that, I can take any questions, or we can move on to public comment.
Any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Coring? Commissioner Coring, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, no, I have no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Brecken?
I know, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So with that, I would look for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. We are now have an open public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak to our levy?
Mr. Chair, I would suggest if somebody is on Teams and they would like to speak, there is a function in there to sort of raise your hand. Therese will monitor that function and then call your name so that we don't have everybody talking on top of each other. If there's somebody who wishes to speak to the county board about the 2021 proposed budget and levy, please use that function within Teams. If you're unsure of how to use it, then feel free to unmute and we'll help you figure it out.
For those on telephone.
If they're on the telephone.
Or if they're on the telephone, yes. Well, if they're on the telephone, there is no function then, right?
Right.
So,
Can unmute themselves and,
yep.
yep.
Second call for anyone who would like to address the 2021 levy.
Oh, I have someone here. Gee, they're all guests.
So the person that raised their hand, if you would like to go ahead and speak, it looks like it's G on our screen.
Yeah, all of those are coming up right here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I've just got a question on my proposed, and I don't know, is this the place where I talk to saying?
If I can interrupt you, would you give your name and your address, please?
Gloetta Bouchard, 15758, Woodrow Road, Brainerd, Minnesota, 56401.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay, I was wondering, is this where I'm having a problem with how much my property value has been going up in the last 3 years. Just this year, it's going to go up. I don't have as much a problem with my taxes, and I understand because there's school taxes and there's other taxes, but my property values went up $105,300 in the last 3 years. Just this year, I mean, this is just the proposed for this year, but it's going to go up $48,700.
Okay.
So that's my question. Is this where I talk to you?
So this should be directed to Gary at the 824-1010 number?
Yeah, Glo, it's nice to hear from you, by the way. We do have appraisers that are standing by at, the phone number is 824-1010. So we don't talk about valuation here, we talk about budget and levy, but Glo, we know people come to us at this meeting with those very questions. And so we want to make sure that we have appraisers available for you to talk to. So if you call that number right now, someone will be able to walk you through what's the history of your parcel and what's going on there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have another guest.
Brent Yannick.
Mr. Yannick, if you would like to address us, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. So I guess my question would be is, in, I want to say 2010 or 2009, I was concerned about the rates of my appraisals back then as far as they were still climbing and property values were declining across the board. And back then I was told that it takes 2 years for something like that to take effect. And then I recently built the house, and over last year, my property value went up right away after I built the house, which didn't make any sense to me as far as the 2-year wait period. And then again, it went up another value, large value, the second year. And I would assume, I mean, I built my house in the 1 year. I get that it would go up because I built the house, but the fact that it got spread over 2 years and went up, you know, weird amounts in my opinion. I was just wondering if that 2-year thing is a farce or if that is actually something that, you know, is true or is used.
So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm not right on this, but that this is a property valuation issue. And again, I would direct you to the assessors at 824-1010 and discuss that with them.
Mr. Chair, I do think Gary could talk a little bit about the assessment and when that assessed value is used and that lag time. Gary, could you give us just a really brief primer on that?
So what we're talking about here is taxes for 2021. And what's used to calculate these taxes are the property assessed values that are from January 1st, 2020. And so what happens is we set a value which are from sales that happen from a period of September through October of every year. And so for the 2020 assessment, those were sales that happened from a period of October through September of 18 and 19. Then we adjust for time adjust all of that until January 2nd of the year. And then you pay tax on that the following year. But real quick on the question on a 2-year lag, there's a lot of different factors that could go into when the general public think property values are on decline. When it was the Great Recession, most of the properties were declining, but we actually had some pockets in our county that were actually increasing. So it can get, it's just not that easy as a blanket statement that it's all or nothing. But in general, it's kind of a farce that it's a 2-year lag. There is a substantial, we're behind what a current value would be today because we only set values once a year. So if a market is increasing in value, like we've seen for 2020, and hence you've heard a couple of folks concerned about property value increases. If they think property values have went down, let's say in the last couple of months, we don't get to react to those until the following January 2nd. So there is some lag there, but in general, it's usually not a full 2 years that our values are that far behind. But I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, Gary. Is there anyone else that would, Brent, did you hear that explanation?
I did, and then I guess a follow-up question for me then at that point was, now I actually lost it. As far as comparing one area to another, so my valuation is X, and someone else I'm talking to has a very similar valuation, but then our taxes, even from the county, aren't very similar. Is there reasons why that would be?
If I could real quick, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
First, we would want to verify, Mr. Yannick, that the properties are similar. Sometimes folks believe that their property is similar to a friend or a neighbor's, and they may have a substantial larger house or a finished basement or more outbuildings like a second garage or pole buildings, something like that. But let's just say, in fact, that they are the same. We would need to look at other factors of, are you in the same school district? Are you in the same township? Have you homesteaded your property? Are you comparing to a seasonal recreational property? So we would need to kind of, look for other factors that would drive the difference in tax, which we can do that for you. If you want to call the 824-1010, we can get to the bottom of it, sir.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to ask a question concerning the levy? Anyone else that would like to address the levy? Third and final call for anyone who would like to address the levy. Seeing none and hearing none, I would look for a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion made by Coring.
Commissioner Coring makes a motion to close the public hearing. Second by Commissioner Hoag. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. The public hearing is closed. And now
Mr. Chair, members,
Administrator Hool.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, you do have enclosed in your packet, budget and levy, final budget and levy resolution for 2021. It sets the county levy, it sets the first assessment district levy, the second assessment district levy, the HRA levy, the levy for the hospital in Crosby. It is all of the things we end up having to do at the end of this year. It is put forward for your consideration.
All right. Before us, we have the 2021 levy. Any discussion, any motions? Commissioner Franzine.
Well, I don't feel like I am ready to make a decision on this. I just got the information that I've requested previously this morning. I don't feel like I've had enough time to actually go over it and ask my questions. Another thing is we have really never discussed the levy for FAD. We've talked a lot about second assessment, but FAD went from last year, 978,022 to this year to $1,182,681. That is a 20.926% increase. I don't feel that that's very reasonable, and we haven't discussed that either. So I'm not prepared to make a motion to accept this. I would like to make a motion to table this until the 29th.
We have a motion to table until the 29th. Is there a second? Is there a second?
second
Commissioner Coring makes the second. Therese, if you would call the roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner
Chair
Barrows?
votes aye. So we'll table that until the 29th, at which time we will have to make a decision.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
We will make a decision.
The first assessment district levy, Commissioner Franzine, is part of that three-year strategy that we had engaged in to try to get so that the county was not fronting money to the first assessment district. This is the third year of that three-year strategy. That's what you're seeing.
With that, I think we're at any additional business. Hearing none, I would say Merry Christmas to all the staff and to the communities. And I want to thank everyone for the hard work they've done in the last 8, 9, well, 12 months almost. So I appreciate that very much, but Merry Christmas to everyone. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Commissioner Franzine makes the motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Hoag makes the second. Therese, if you would do the roll call, please.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, folks. You too.
Sheriff, thank you very much.